Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay. And you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, February 28th, 2025. We're almost out of February. There's no more left. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on the context of these stories, and help each other understand.
Today, Bodie Grimm is back to talk to us about securing your car tech and more from your emails.
I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Huyen now.
Let's start with what you need to know with the big story. And no, it's not Skype, but we will get to that. Want to talk about OpenAI launching GPT 4.5, codename Orion, in research preview. It is not a chain of thought model. All their most recent models have been the O series, which are chain of thought. 4.5 is the last of its breed, according to OpenAI. It's a large language model like GPT 3.5 with a little bit of machine learning. OpenAI says it will be the last of the models to not have reasoning. They're going to combine everything. Remember, we talked about that before. They're going to have the chain of thought and the large language model and the machine learning. And then it'll decide which model is best for you. It is launched in research preview, which means subscribers to the $200 a month ChatGPT Pro service are the folks who have access, as well as companies that use Microsoft Azure AI Foundry. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said on X that GPT 4.5 uses so much computer power that they don't have enough GPUs yet to let everybody use it. But they're adding more, and they plan to roll it out to the Plus users. Those are the $20 a month folks, and Team users next week. And then they'll follow that up with the Enterprise and EDU users after that. OpenAI says GPT 4.5 is better at conversation than the chain of thought models. And it emulates emotional intelligence in the way it responds. It says you can have nice, warm conversations with it. It'll be thoughtful and caring. OpenAI, or at least appear to be. OpenAI says this is because it dramatically increased the computing power during pre-training when a model does the unsupervised learning. That's when it just looks for patterns. Unsupervised learning lets a model find patterns and insights on its own rather than learning from labels. But that procedure may have reached its limits, which is why most new models use chain of thought that are more efficient, so you don't have to add all those GPUs and reason out problems. Still, GPT 4.5 can emulate understanding better and reduce hallucinations. So it's more accurate, and in a test of persuasiveness, it was able to convince the GPT-4o reasoning model to donate virtual money, the best of any of the other models. They still say it meets its safety parameters, but it's very persuasive, so be careful. It is also not multimodal, so it does not have a voice mode, video, or screen sharing, and it won't benchmark as well as O1 or O3 on a lot of tasks, but it is best for writing and world knowledge. That's GPT 4.5. If you're waiting for GPT 5, which will be the combined model that Altman's been talking about, that's expected for May still, and will be the first to incorporate the full O3 model. Right now, you can only get O3 Mini. Are you ready to have a nice, warm conversation with your chatbot?
I think so. I wouldn't mind a more natural conversation with my chatbot and my chatbot to understand my weird, rambly stream of thought way of speaking. So I do love this. I do think that that's one of the most interesting things about this current, the current generation of AI is just that emphasis on conversation, which is fun in I suppose, if you're a fan of I was thinking of the movie Her. That's complicated, but I do
because of Scarlett Johansson.
Because of Scarlett Johansson,
her potential lawsuit against OpenAI. But yes,
more of accessibility and and accessibility not just necessarily accessibility is the wrong word, but more being able to actually be general use, because so often I think chatbots previously have been so kind of tuned to more rote rote commands or just memorization of a particular way of saying something. That for, AI to be truly useful to most people, it needs to be able to understand how most people speak, which is not perfect and not, along certain lines. So I like hearing this aspect of conversational AIs in the current generation is something that I do enjoy and do like seeing, just because it will make it more accessible to most people.
Yeah, I do think that it's unfortunate that you can't do voice mode with this, because voice mode right now with ChatGPT is one of its superpowers. Mm-hmm. I use it a lot when I'm not sure what I need to ask, because it is very good at kind of bouncing back and asking you questions, and it's very natural. Yeah. But it also doesn't sound as natural. It's always kind of chirpy, no matter what you're talking about. So your funeral arrangements can be made at
good point. Good point.
Yeah. So maybe that's what this is going to improve on is that. And some of the examples they gave were, instead of, being kind of cold and giving you like, well, here's a list of things to do, it can say like, oh, that sounds really hard. Would you like me to give you some advice? Like, it'll ask you first. That kind of stuff is really interesting as well.
That's a really good point, though. Tone is very contextual, and obviously, like certain searches or certain conversations might be need less chipperiness. So I would be really excited. I personally don't know whether multimodal functionality is on the way, because I think that's one of the things that's most compelling about like competitors like Gemini is that synthesis of, humans are multimodal, so it kind of makes sense at some point that these like assistants will need to be multimodal as well. So I think that would just be the combination, right? Being able to actually, maybe a little scary, but also really useful is when you can kind of synthesize, when it can synthesize, information of different modes like humans do. And that would be really cool. So
that's kind of what they're indicating will come in GPT-5, which we're only going to have to wait 3 months or 2 months, I guess,
so we'll see.
We'll see soon.
Well, DTNS is made possible by you, the listener, thanks to Carmine Bailey, Vince Power, Chris Beneteau, and welcome new patrons Big Dog and Bossum.
Yay!
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
Angel Reese y McDonald's tienen la clave para un post-game meal de campeones. Una QPC con salsa barbecue y tocino, papitas y un refresco. Los pros le llaman el Angel Reese Special. Llévate el Angel Reese Special solo en McDonald's. En McDonald's, participantes por tiempo limitado.
There is still more that we'd like to tell you today, so let's get right to the briefs.
Well, pour one out, because Microsoft announced it will retire the Skype call service on May 5th. Well, if you are still using Skype, you have 10 weeks to export your contacts and chat data or migrate it to Microsoft Teams. And in the interim, Skype users will be able to log into Teams with their Skype credentials. Skype launched on, wait for it, August 29th, 2003, and Microsoft acquired it in May 2011.
So it's old enough to drink in the U.S.
So we can't pour one out for it. It's legal.
Can pour one out and it can drink it. Yeah, I don't know when the last time I launched my Skype was. I might not have launched it this entire year. So
I don't think either. It's really nostalgic though. And it's such a weird fabric, or a good solid fabric of like the history of the internet. I guess personal story. I met my husband on the internet. Sort of. We had personal questions, but we went on the internet. We spent so many hours, like talking on Skype. And I feel like a lot of podcasts popped up on in 10 years ago, we're all using Skype for like the multi calls. I don't know. Yeah. So it's sad to see it go. I mean, obviously it makes sense, but man, the nostalgia. We thank you, Skype, for your service.
What a Cinco de Mayo. Say goodbye to Skype.
Yeah, drink celebrate Cinco de Mayo and celebrate the life and times of Skype. Let's not be sad that it's gone, but be glad that it was here.
I plan exactly. Well said. I plan to celebrate by calling the Skype call testing service one last time.
Oh, that's a great idea. I need to do that. I will miss her. I think. Yeah.
She was my friend. Mozilla recently published changes to the Firefox browser's terms of service. That never goes bad for anyone, does it? Well, one change worded the usual non-exclusive royalty-free worldwide license to use that information to help you navigate, experience, and interact with online content as you indicate with your use of Firefox. And that set a bunch of people off. They're like, wait, you get what? You used to say specifically you wouldn't do this or that. This kind of phrase is a common cause for concern when it appears in terms of service. It's almost always there, but when people notice it, they get freaked out. It's kind of boilerplate. Non-exclusive means Mozilla doesn't have the right to stop you from using your data elsewhere just because you accessed it in Firefox. So that's good. You don't want it to be exclusive. Royalty-free means neither you nor Firefox have to pay for you to use the browser, like to use the data that you're using in your browser, and worldwide is necessary because Firefox is available everywhere. What people were worried with is, oh, sure, but now that you no longer specifically say what you won't use it for in the terms, you're going to sell it to AI, you're going to sell it to advertisers, all of that. Mozilla categorically denies any of that and says that the privacy notice has not changed and still limits what Mozilla can do. The change in the terms was meant to make it easier to read, and there has been no change in how it uses Firefox user data. Specifically, they told TechCrunch the terms do not give Mozilla ownership of user data or a right to use it beyond what's stated in the privacy notice. They were just trying to make things efficient by having the privacy notice have all the privacy stuff and not have it in more than one place, it seems like.
That's fair.
Yeah. People get nervous.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be so flippant about it, but yeah. And I do appreciate like if their stated purpose is to make it easier to read, that definitely is valid because
no good deed goes unpunished though.
For real. Well, Meta showed off the latest version of its smart glass research platform, Aria Gen 2. So they're meant to help researchers in robotics and advanced sensors, among other things. And Aria Gen 2 actually adds a heart rate sensor and longer battery life, always needed. They are available specifically to research labs. And CNBC sources say Meta plans to release a standalone chatbot app sometime by the end of June. It will test a monthly access fee for a paid subscription to the service. And Meta AI is only available on the web and in Meta services like Facebook and WhatsApp.
I mean, it's kind of weird they don't have a chatbot app when they have a chatbot.
Yeah.
And have had one for a couple of years now. So this doesn't seem to be as big of news as is indicated by the number of people who wrote this up since it leaked out from CNBC.
No news is some news. I don't.
Yeah. That's what they say. AMD's Radeon 9070 and 9070 XT GPUs will arrive March 6th. The 9070 starts at $549 and the 9070 XT at $599. The equivalent NVIDIA RTX 5070 is also $549, but sometimes kind of hard to get. And the RTX 5070 Ti is $749. So almost a couple $100 more than the equivalent AMD. The RDNA 4 GPUs in the Radeons include FSR for upscaling powered by machine learning now, not just on GPU stuff. So they should work better. They are more similar to NVIDIA's DLSS in the way they work. AMD claims the 9070 XT can run Space Marine 2 at an average of 53 frames per second in 4K, but with FSR 4 on, that jumps to 182 frames per second. So it's a nice jump. For creators, it can support up to 8K 80 frames per second encoding and decoding, and the even more affordable AMD RX 9060 cards are going to be arriving by the end of June.
AMD is certainly killing it in a good way. I mean, but my goodness, 182 frames per second. I don't think my old eyes can even see that many frames per second.
My eyes don't need that either.
Well, New York's Metro Transit Authority, the MTA, has released some results of its study, Operation Track Inspect, with Google Public Sector on-track safety inspections. So the study actually attached Google Pixel phones to subway cars and then programmed them to analyze sounds and track movement. So this data was fed to models trained to identify parts of the track that needed attention or repair. 92% of the detected defects were confirmed by human inspectors. And then by comparison, human inspectors listening to the sound recordings had an 80% success rate. And so the next step is to see if specialized hardware, not just, pixels strapped to the side of a subway car, would be cheaper, probably, and more accurate.
I know that in reality, these are probably like just, put in that locked cab that you can't get into. But I like to imagine them like screaming strapped to the side of the car.
No, that's exactly what I pictured. There's like pixels on the outside with like duct tape or gaffer tape or just something. Yeah. That's my headcanon for this. I'm sorry.
That's definitely how I am picturing it as well. But they wanted to use off-the-shelf hardware to show like, yeah, you don't need specialized hardware to do this. So if you don't need all the rest of what a Pixel does, then you should be able to make it even cheaper. And it makes it more efficient for track inspectors to be able to target where to look. They still need to go out and do human inspections, of course, but this is going to speed things up. I think it's pretty good.
I love this. This is where I think AI is so promising, as in just a layer in the stack where we always have humans like, I guess depending on your perspective at the top or the bottom, but we have AI in the middle to kind of filter all the important stuff to us. I love it.
Yeah. Just kind of weed stuff out. That's yeah. So we separated the AMD and Intel stories out of sensitivity so that Intel wouldn't feel bad. Intel told the Columbus, Ohio Dispatch that its $28 billion semiconductor plant in the city will not be completed until 2030 now. It's been delayed a couple of times. It was originally scheduled to open this year. So that's not happening. The company has received $2.2 billion of its $7.865 billion in funding as part of the U.S. federal CHIPS incentive program. And Intel said that, capital expenditures were part of the reason that they're delaying it.
Well, if you chow, the NHL will test a new app called NHL Watch Comms for its officials during this weekend's Stadium Series in Ohio. So the on-ice officials will be wearing Apple Watches to get real-time haptic notifications for things like game clock countdowns and actually get sweater numbers for players in the penalty box.
Yeah, apparently they've tested this in the rink, in arenas, but because they're doing it outside, they're doing the Stadium Series thing. It's a little harder to hear, a little harder to see sometimes. So kind of cool that they're doing that.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Next week is Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Jason Howell will be there. We plan to talk to him a couple of times about what he's seeing on the ground in advance of the show. Here is one item of note for him to look for. We'll give him an assignment without him even knowing it. Tecno, Tecno, that's a brand from China's Transsion, which is a top seller in Africa, is teasing the world's thinnest smartphone. Has a 6.78-inch AMOLED screen and a 5,200 milliamp hour battery. So they didn't skimp on the battery or the screen to make it 5.75 millimeters thick. This is a concept phone, but the company says they will have demo units at Mobile World Congress.
And finally, if you are wondering why the new mid-range iPhone 16e doesn't have MagSafe charging, Apple told Daring Fireball it's because, quote, most people in the iPhone 16e's target audience exclusively charge their phones by plugging them into a charging cable. Basically, they don't care if it charges slower over wireless Qi charging.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's wireless, it is wireless charging. It just doesn't have the magnets, and the magnets help speed things up. If you've got a compatible charger and a compatible phone. This is the whole Samsung MagSafe Ready thing.
Yes,
right?
Ready, but not actually Qi 2, because there is a speculation. There
Qi
is
2
a
ready.
Qi 2 Ready means that it can be Qi 2. You can use Qi 2 if you have a case that has magnets. But actual Qi 2 means that the magnets are in the phone. I just learned this like for Android faithful, and I was, well, that's such a big OEM thing to do. It's just to be like, it's Qi 2 ready. Yeah. I'm not clarifying what that means, but
basically that's what Apple's doing. They're not calling it Qi 2 ready, but they're like, yeah, you could get a phone with magnets and it'll work. but we're gonna keep the price down. They didn't keep the price down that much, but they kept the price down a little bit by not putting the magnets in. Also, I'll be honest, I don't use MagSafe on my phones very often. Yeah, I've just got old wireless chargers that I haven't replaced that don't have MagSafe in them. So I'm apparently the 16E's target audience, at least in that respect.
Well, there you go. If you guys were wondering if there was someone who would fit in that category, Tom certainly does.
It's me.
It's you.
Those are the essentials for today. Let's dive a little deeper into an ongoing story. Do some follow-up.
Well, car tech is a complicated thing, especially with the ever-growing amount of tech that are actually inside cars. Tom has been sitting down with Bodie Grimm of the Kilowatt podcast to help us get a better understanding. Today, Bodie will talk about how to secure your car tech.
Bodie, thanks for joining me again. It's good to have you back. Our cars are big rolling computers. So I know a lot of this advice is just going to be the same advice that we give to someone when you were talking about securing their email or their phone or something like that. But what are some of the things that people need to think about to secure their car?
Yeah, I don't want to get too dystopian, but we should think of them as big rolling monitoring devices. You know, they're always watching us and always reporting back. And sometimes that will help you if it's not your fault and you get in an accident. And sometimes, if it is your fault, it's not going to help you out. So one of the things is, because it's collecting so much data, is you don't want somebody to hack your car. There's a lot of worry about people hacking electric vehicles, especially Teslas. So there's a couple of things you can do. First, protect yourself against social engineering, which is, if you get a weird text and it doesn't look right and it says it's from Tesla and you need to enter your login credentials or whatever, it's probably not from Tesla and you should delete that text.
Be highly skeptical. Do not enter that password.
Yeah. And then, there's other things like use strong passwords, and that seems, obvious in most cases, but you'd be surprised how many of my friends who aren't that bright, but how many of them who will actually get hacked because they didn't use a strong password or they reused passwords, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And when you're in your car, you may start to let your guard down a little bit, and you shouldn't. I think that's the point.
For sure. This is as connected as your phone, 100% in most cases. The other thing is don't connect random devices to your car. Whether that's wirelessly, USB, or through the OBD2 port. I know that there are a lot of devices out there, and I'm not calling out anything in particular, but there are a lot of devices out there that will let you turn your Tesla infotainment screen into an Apple CarPlay screen. If you don't know where or what that device is doing on the back end, probably not something you should connect to your car wirelessly. And then there are a bunch of OBD2 type of connectors that will give you like a whole host of information. Like you'll get a whole dashboard on your phone of what the car's doing, the state of charge, and things like that. But also, if you don't know what that's connecting back to, probably not a good idea to connect it to your car.
Yeah, it's similar to learning don't plug any USB drive into your computer if you don't know and don't trust and can't completely trust where it came from. That OBD2 port can be a vector just like a USB port, and your car has USB ports. And just like, you got to be careful with Wi-Fi and all of that. You got to be careful with things connecting to your car.
Yeah, Wi-Fi is a big one. My car connects to Wi-Fi when I get home, right? But I don't turn it off when I leave. So it's the Wi-Fi is open on my car. Probably I should turn it off, but that's also a vector for being hacked. I don't think I'm going to get hacked while sitting at my house, but who knows if I drive somewhere and there happens to be somebody looking for an opportunity, that might be a vector for them to hack my car.
Yeah, just because it's a way in, right? And that's what
sure.
attackers are looking for. What about that modification? You talked about hardware that could give you CarPlay. What about you getting cool apps into your car? Yeah,
I can't. I think it was Jen said that she would, on one of the episodes last week, said she would jailbreak her car. Don't jailbreak your car. Don't do that. There are lots of security experts, like Green the Only is one. If you want to follow somebody on Twitter, it's at Green the Only. He is really good at like digging through Tesla's source code and reporting back what he finds. But if you're not at that level, you should not be trying to jailbreak your vehicle.
Yeah. I think Jen might be at that level, but most of us are not, and I include myself in that. Right. So yeah, unless you're real sure that you're 100, maybe more than 100%, which isn't even mathematically possible. The jury is out of it or against it. Okay, and then simple other stuff. What are some other final things that people probably should know or maybe even do know, but it's good to be reminded of?
Well, Pwn to Own in Tokyo was in January, and two of, I can't remember the hacking groups, but two of the hacking groups hacked multiple EVSEs, which are electric vehicle supply equipment or level 2 wall chargers. They were actually able to hack the charger and make them crash. Now, is that like a huge deal? Probably not, but your EVSEs, or your electric vehicle, or your wall chargers, those are also often connected to the internet, which is also a vector. And when you connect your car to your charger, there's data going back and forth. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah. So we're not saying don't charge your car, but
no.
just make sure that your software is up to date.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is make sure your software is up to date for your car as well as your wall charger.
Yeah. And you may think, oh, my car's up to date. But is the charger, is everything that connects to your car? I mean, that goes for your phone and everything else too, I think, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Bodhi, thank you so much for helping folks keep secure. I know some of these things aren't new to our listeners, but some of them are. So it's always good to just be reminded. If folks want more on this kind of information specifically, where should they go?
Well, I have a podcast called Kilowatt, and I'll be talking about this in more depth probably at the end of March, maybe beginning of April. So you could go to 918digital.com and see everything that I'm up to there.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Bodhi.
Thank you, Tom.
If you got follow-up questions, I know Bodhi always loves to hear him. One way to tell them to us is in our Discord. You can join that by linking to a Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Today, RW with some words of encouragement.
Yeah, we love getting the insight. We love getting the expertise. Keep that coming. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. But sometimes it's just nice to hear this. RW wrote, briefing goes from strength to strength. It's not that I don't like live. I love it. But briefing certainly scratches that knowledge itch. Thank you very much, RW. It's always good to get that stuff. And that was about your show yesterday with Jason.
Oh,
so there you go.
Thank you. Yeah. I'd like to be like a good cortisone cream around here. Is that right? No, I'm sorry.
Yes.
But anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Well, it scratches the itch.
Scratches up.
The
Sorry.
cream
It's
would
like
relieve the itch.
Oh.
So you're like one of those little hands.
Little hand scratchers. Okay. Excellent.
Little
I love
plastic
it.
hands. Yeah. Big thanks to Bodhi and RW for contributing to today's show. Thank you for being along for today's Daily Tech News Show, made possible by our patrons. Patreon.com/DTNS. Don't forget, there's also DTNS Live. We just referred to it. You can watch that on YouTube and Twitch Live, or find all the details on how to get it on demand at dailytechnewsshow.com. Talk to you tomorrow. Oh, actually, Monday.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.